Thanks for joining me.
Of course, thank you.
So right now we are watching as Republicans are going to their town halls across the country to the point where even the NRCC had said, look, just stop going to town halls. Not that they should maybe fix some of the things that people are upset about, but just don't go to the town halls. I have seen so much footage of you going to your own town halls, getting absolutely like harangued and harassed and yelled at, and yet you still go, you still show up. And so what's your reaction to the fact that, given your experience, watching these Republicans not even want to show up in the building?
I think regardless of what party you are, if you're independent, Republican, Democrat, you have a right to see your elected member of Congress whose job it is to serve and represent you. And you're right. I've had plenty of town halls where people not even from my district have shown up. And, you know, yeah, they give me a tough time.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the gig,
Yeah.
being a publicly elected official. You're never going to make everybody happy. But my job, part of it, is you go home, you go to your town halls, you explain what you're doing. Sometimes you got to face the music. There's tough votes that we got to take here. But our job is to hear from people. And if you aren't doing town halls because your own residents and members of your community are upset with what you're doing, the answer is you got to own your decisions.
And so what should Democrats do right now? Because there is a vacuum that's being created where even in these Republican districts, and these are not, a lot of the time, these are not even swing districts. These are R plus 20, R plus 25 districts. That means 20 or 25 points more Republican than the rest of the nation. And so they're not able to speak to anybody because their representatives aren't showing up. And so is there an opportunity for Democrats to be able to step in here?
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, if your representative is not doing a town hall, give me a ring. I mean, I don't know if an R plus 25 district would have me, but I'm always willing to be proven wrong. And I mean, I'll say it right here, right now. If a deep red Republican district wants to have an honest conversation, even if it's with someone they disagree with, I'm willing to do that. You know, I'm willing to meet with Republicans and just, you know, be honest about where I stand, where they stand. We can explain, you know, and understand each other better. But I definitely think it creates a vacuum. And even if it's not a Democratic member, people can host community town halls. You don't need a member of Congress to host a town hall, and just host one without them.
So I want to switch gears a little bit here to, obviously you've been subject to attacks, public attacks by Tom Homan, Trump's ICE director, and we've seen numerous instances where Trump's law enforcement officials, including Ed Martin, U.S. Attorney's Office here in D.C., and Pam Bondi have really focused their attention right now not on violent criminals, not on terrorist organizations or domestic terrorists, but rather on focusing on Democrats themselves. And so what's your reaction to the fact that, for example, these things are being done kind of to the detriment of focusing on actual violent criminals by putting you guys in their crosshairs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with all of this shift in focus, we really haven't seen before this kind of Hollywoodification of law enforcement activity. You've got Kristi Noem doing made-for-TV ICE stings where they get, by the way, they pick up almost nobody in these. You've got Tom Homan going on Fox News threatening members of Congress for educating everyday Americans of their constitutional rights. You know, it's not just that this is a deep, deep betrayal of their jobs, but it's also the fact that every time you see Tom Homan on Fox News, every time you see Kristi Noem, every time you see these law enforcement officials doing flashy television interviews, understand that they are taking resources away from looking at human trafficking. They are taking attention and focus and real dollars and real resources away from actual drug enforcement, trafficking enforcement, actually going after and actually trying to investigate really harmful activity that is happening. And so it's harmful in every aspect.
Does it surprise you that after years and years and years of them wailing about this idea of the weaponization of government, that the first chance they have in power, within just weeks of this administration, they're already writing inquiry letters to members of Congress, they're targeting you, they're targeting Chuck Schumer?
Well, I mean, this is the thing with Republicans. Every accusation is a confession. And we know for a fact that the Department of Justice remained independent under, Democratic and Republican administrations alike prior to the Trump administration.
Yeah.
And that independence is incredibly important. And we know that it's been independent, right? They like to cry about Joe Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice. If that was the case, I don't think we would have seen convictions of Senator Menendez. Yeah. I don't think we would have seen these investigations into his own son, Hunter Biden. We've seen so many investigations into Democrats under the Biden administration. Let me tell you, that's a good thing, because independence is what matters. It shouldn't matter what party you are. It shouldn't matter what your political viewpoint is. What should matter is the facts of the case.
Medicaid, Social Security, these are earned benefits, entitlement programs that people rely on. They are lifelines for hundreds of millions of Americans. Medicaid itself is responsible for making sure that more than 70 million Americans have access to health care, children's health insurance program, tens of millions of kids, food stamps, the SNAP benefits are 40 some odd million Americans. Republicans are claiming right now that they're not going to touch any of these things. Can I have your reaction to that?
They're lying to you. The reason what Republicans say is, oh, these big budget cuts don't actually say the word Medicaid in it, so they aren't Medicaid cuts. But if I tell you what's 10 minus 4, and you say 6, I can just tell you, I didn't say 6.
Right.
But they put the 10 minus 4 into the bill.
By virtue of ascribing $880 billion in cuts to energy and commerce, and the only mathematical way for them to cut $880 billion is to focus on Medicaid.